Hello, everybody. Uh,
Uh,
welcome back. Hope you guys are well and safe. Welcome back to the best podcast in the Midwest.
Yes.
How are you guys doing?
we're here.
All right.
Yeah.
We out here.
As you can see, we have another guest, and this is a returning guest that we have. So, hi, thank you for coming back again.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I'm really excited to be here, and I'm super excited for today's topic.
Yeah. If you could just like reintroduce yourself a little bit, just remind everyone who you are again.
Yeah, so my name is Emma Alves. I'm the Violence Prevention Education Coordinator at the Phoenix Center at Auraria, which is your on-campus interpersonal violence support and education office. We are still open, just so you're aware. I want to be really, really clear. Please know that you can still call our helpline. You can still set up advocacy appointments. You can still request prevention programming. So just be super aware that we're still here.
Cool. Emma's so awesome. We're so excited to have him here. I have been really excited about this episode, just to kind of dig into this because I know a lot of people have a lot of feelings about everything. And so our topic for today is Netflix shows and series, specifically discussing shows that are a little bit more, I wouldn't say a little bit more, but they really go past the line of what people expect the show to be and more than what we've seen before. And so the shows that I'm talking about are like 13 Reasons Why and You, which they have really serious topics in them that I wouldn't know if I would say they're like downplayed, but like what is the harm as well as like the benefits of seeing shows like this, because they really do push the boundaries a lot. For my own like background, I've seen the first two seasons of 13 Reasons Why. I haven't seen any of the third season. I probably won't, to be completely honest. And then I've seen the first season of You, and I'm kind of going back and forth if I'm going to watch the second season.
Yes. I haven't seen 13 Reasons Why, just because when they did the production for the episodes of the seasons, I was still doing a lot of like psych work and stuff like that. And so I started seeing a lot of articles on it, and it just wasn't my cup of tea. And for this semester, I did end up finishing the first season of You. I have my whole breakdown of the first season, and why it's a lot. Let's just say, like, we'll put that to, right now. But yeah, no, that's kind of where I'm at with those series as well.
With me, never seen You. I've seen 13 Reasons Why season 1 and 2, but I've heard what's in season 3, and that's just the more touching topic. Touching episodes, which I'm like, I think I need to take time to like digest each episode because it's very heavy. Um, and then yeah, so that would be my perspective. I don't have much, but I'm looking forward to like the discussions that y'all are gonna have with you and just how I feel when I'm going to watch it, right? Just prepare myself with what's to expect. Yeah.
I have seen season 1 and 2 of You. I actually hosted an event was it last semester? Time is so hard to keep track of right now. Regarding, it might have actually been this semester, regarding season 1 of You. And so I'm really excited to talk about season 1 and 2 as well, because I think that they try to do different things. And then I have actually never seen 13 Reasons Why. I did read the book like when it first came out, and it was useful for me at the time, and I deferred to a lot of my fellow professionals around the Netflix series. So I'm excited to kind of talk about some of that in any sense that Ray based on what he said, had the same experience.
Yeah. So just so everybody knows, whether you're watching this or listening, there will be spoilers on this episode. So if you have never seen the shows and you really want to and don't like spoilers, this may not be the episode for you, unfortunately. But in order for us to have these good discussions, we do need to talk about like what happens in the show. So which show do you all want to start with? Do you want to start with 13 Reasons Why, or do you want to start with You? Because there's a lot to unpack with both.
I kind of want to start with You just because of two things. I have watched Gossip Girl. I was a Gossip Girl fan for a long time. And so when the show came out and I saw that Penn Badgley, who was Dan Humphries, was the main character, I was like, okay, all right, Dan Humphries, let's do this. Little did I know that it was honestly just an alternate universe of just Gossip Girl, of how honestly like criminal like the character has done when it came to his infatuations and his obsessions and stuff like that. And spoiler alert for Gossip Girl, in the last season, you start seeing, one, that Dan Humphries is Gossip Girl, spoiler, and two, how his whole character kind of comes out to light, and how he starts just being a little darker.
Yes, a lot darker.
A lot darker, to the point where you're like, did I ever really like this character?
Yeah.
And I feel like it's kind of doing the opposite, like in this show, where in the start of the series, you're like, this is a stalker. This is someone who I should not like. And throughout the whole series, you know, towards the end of the season one, you're like, well, and you're like, no, like, and this is where the human, you know, interaction should change, where it's like, you know, even though you're watching this main character do all these things, such as, you know, masturbating in public, through looking at a window at, you know, at a person who you barely know just because they're attractive in your sense, stealing their phone, definitely being, you know, forcing a toxic relationship and fabricating an entire relationship around this whole fact that you just like them.
Yeah. Stealing someone's laptop.
You know, murdering people. Like this man murdered people. And I think what was hilarious, which kind of prompted me to watch the show, was that there was this whole trend of memes of all these like girls on Twitter and like actual Instagram being like, oh yeah, I would love Dan Humphries' character to stalk me and follow me and do all these things. And I'm like, no, you would not. Like, what are you saying? And yeah, it's just, I'm very hesitant to watch the second season because like it does have that Gossip Girl-esque style of previously on this, and something big happens and there's some kind of mystery that you're trying to figure out. You know, it's very enticing as a show, but the character is a bad person. The actor, Penn Badgley, has said multiple times, this is a bad person. This person has murdered, has lied, you know, and has psychotically, you know, manipulated people and tortured people. This is a not good person. And, you know,
you have a lot of feelings about this.
I do. You know, because like, I think if it had been, what was it? I don't know the guy's name. If it had been the character who plays Joe's like co-worker and like friend, if it had been his actor character doing all these things,
people would feel so differently.
No one would ever want to watch the show and do anything with it. So it kind of gives into that privilege of like, oh, so since he's an attractive white male, he can do murder and he can do all the things. Episode one,
and people will love him.
And people will love him. Like literally episode one, I was like, is someone gonna get this man jerking off in the middle of the street? Like, this is New York, but even New Yorkers kind of be like, yo, get the hell out of here. You know, like, even standards, you know? It's definitely wild. And for sure, if anyone's listening to this who is a fan of Joe, not of the character, but of the actor, great. Actor's great. But if you love the character of Joe and you want him to stalk you, please stop this like thought process because it's not good. But yeah. That was my TED talk.
He got away with the murder, right?
Huh?
Did he get away with the murder?
Unfortunately, yes.
But it's not surprising just because in reality today, white males
Mhm.
don't get sent to prison for life for most things that they do.
Right.
You know, but okay, going back, sorry.
No, that's fully like a part of it. I mean,
Yeah.
that we can't separate that from it either. You know, go ahead.
Yeah.
I feel like you're trying to say.
Yeah.
No, I think honestly, what bothers me about the show so much is not actually the show. I think the show is self-aware. I sort of think of it as almost a self-aware version of Dexter, which like Dexter was a completely not at all self-aware version. It shows me like how far we go to forgive whiteness and specifically white men. And like even that scene where he's jerking off outside the window, if any man of color was in a Columbia University neighborhood, cops would have been there in like 10 seconds.
Yeah.
That whole, like that wouldn't have happened. This whole setup wouldn't have happened.
Right.
And so that's the privilege, like Joe's privilege is that he can commit a lot of crimes and everyone believes in his humanity and gives him the benefit of the doubt. And it's so frustrating to see people like, see, like Penn Badgley could murder me. And it's like, no, you're missing the point. This is something like, to me, it's like a really good look into a perpetrator's mind, actually. The ways that they justify their behavior, their misogynistic views and how they think that they know better than women all the time, get to make their decisions, get to enact power and control on them in deadly ways. So I've been so frustrated by the media response, but honestly, the show itself, I think is doing some really interesting work, which I find it too, and I'm excited to discuss how that compares with 13 Reasons Why, because they ignored a lot of professional advice and are not very self-aware. And so it plays out differently there.
Yeah, that's interesting that you like mentioned that, because that was definitely one of the parts that like creeped me out the most about Joe, was like hearing that inner monologue that he has in his head is like, you don't know any better, like let me take care of you, like you should let me do this and like all this stuff. And I'm just like, this guy is nuts. But you're right, like it is a way to get a look into someone's mind that feels justified to do this type of work.
And I also find it really interesting too, because like in season 2, there's that awareness that he does know he's doing something wrong. He does. He's just like, I'm going to stop this. I'm not going to do this anymore. I'm not this guy anymore. And so even though he constantly rationalizes it, it's not as if he knows that his behavior isn't wrong.
Right.
He knows, and he just doesn't care because he has that privilege to not care.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh gosh. Yeah. And go ahead, Ray.
No, I talk too much, so.
And I think just to kind of slip into 13 Reasons Why. So I also read the book for 13 Reasons Why. And I agree, like at the time, that was a great book for me, especially because I was in like my very like angsty type of years. And I was also like starting to experience anxiety and depression, but not really know what it was and not being able to label that for myself. And so it was like an interesting perspective for you all who haven't like watched it. Like 13 Reasons Why, the show takes place over like the course of like a couple months, like a few months, and the book takes place in like 2 days. It's literally 2 days, because he just listens to the tapes and goes to all the locations on the map that she said to listen to a specific tape. But this one, he just kind of listened to it as he could, while still experiencing school and experiencing everyone's experience of going through Hannah. That's her name, right? Hannah's tragedy. So I remember watching the first season, and I talked to my aunt who's a nurse, and she said that she was like, I get like that they were trying to do suicide prevention, but the part that really bothered me before they edited this was that they show how Hannah commits suicide. And like when you see a lot of people cutting, they like cut this way, and this is just to inflict pain and like create a scar. It doesn't necessarily like it's not the right type of cut to actually be able to um
Kill
yeah, to kill yourself. But in the show, they showed like how to actually do it
Mm-hmm.
if you wanted to die. And they like showed that scene. And for my aunt, that bothered her so much. She's like, it some people don't know that. And so she was like, now people can watch the show, and if they really wanted to, like, they would know how to. So like from a medical standpoint, like that was really alarming to her, and she couldn't watch the next season. And season 2, it gets even worse, honestly. In some ways, there is like a sodomizing scene that happens that I had to. You remember this, Chelsea, right?
Yeah, that's why I'm like,
Yeah, it was one of the most like painful scenes I've ever had to watch. And I think it is like what you were talking about, and with like that lack of awareness of what this can do to people. And like they do put trigger warnings at the beginning of the episodes, which I'm glad that they do that.
mhm.
And there's really nothing that can really prepare you for that.
Mm-hmm.
Like the intensity of that scene was insane, and I had to walk away from that show for a while. Like I had to take a deep breath and was like, did this just happen? Yeah, I don't know. I feel like there was just a better way that they can do it. And it's sad because they do have like highlights on the episodes too, when they go through the court case and have that episode with all the women on there, almost like a Me Too movement type of thing, explaining different situations that they've experienced rape. That was a powerful scene, and just showing like all these different types of women from different ethnicities and different sexualities and whatever it might be. Like that was a very powerful scene, and I'm super happy that they put that in there. And that doesn't erase like all the other bad things that happened on the show, or at least impacted me negatively, if that makes sense.
That
It's,
absolutely makes sense. I'm sorry, Chelsea, did you want
it's like they use that Me Too movement to like
to?
just like blanket over the wrong things that they just did before. They didn't never really addressed it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, it's like a band-aid almost, because here's the thing is, it's like the show's not aware, but the producers are. They did bring in mental health professionals. They were told that depicting a suicide on television is incredibly irresponsible. It will cause a spike in suicides. Depicting sexual assault in graphic detail on television, for the purposes of this show, it was trauma porn. There was nothing educational about it. It was simply a triggering scene. And so that, honestly, knowing those two pieces, I made the decision for my own mental health and for my own work as a social worker and someone in violence prevention, that I'm not gonna give that show my views, because what's really sad though is that while Netflix has so many shows that are doing it wrong, they do actually have shows that get it very right. So it's so frustrating, because I know that they can do better. It's the refusal to.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
I agree. Go ahead, Ray.
so I guess like, you know, with this topic of like Netflix shows and going too far, when we made the plan to set this up in the beginning of the year, we didn't expect that a recent show would kind of catch our attention, which is Tiger King.
Yeah.
Definitely, it is a documentary series that I feel as though has caught in like, you know, the country, if not the world's attention when it comes to tiger breeding. And I think it does not do a good job with educating people about the dangers of tiger breeding and like the whole like
It like
weird.
briefly mentions it at the beginning. And it's like when Carol Baskin talks about like when people get these like animals and they're cute for the first 6 months, and then they call her and say like, I need to get rid of this because it either like bit off like a finger or it was really dangerous. But like that was basically it.
That was like a 30
Other
minute.
other than the financial stuff.
Yeah. And so like with this show, you know, we kind of see what I would call the craziest like car crash that you'll probably see, like when it comes to, you know, tiger breeding and the world that is tiger breeding within our own United States. You know, definitely like again, brief spoilers, whatever. We're gonna try our best because I think Alma, she is one
We
episode
have
away.
one more episode.
She has one more episode, so she knows the majority of it. Chelsea, you gotta watch it, you know. But definitely, it does have a lot of episodes that I feel as though were meant like mostly just for shock value.
Mhm.
Especially like with one of the partners to one of the characters. I can't even say characters, like one of the people like Travis. And that
Oh
whole
yeah, that
like
was
they didn't prep anybody for that.
no.
And if anyone's watching this or hearing this, you know what happens, and if you haven't, you know, again, like don't watch it if you don't, you know. But
What
definitely,
episode is that? Is that? I feel like if anyone's listening, I believe it is the 5th.
I think 5th or 6th episode.
Towards
Or
Yeah.
that.
no, yeah, 5th or 6th.
It's the 5th or 6th episode. So just a trigger warning once you go into that episode. It something happens that is startling, honestly. And
And
Like with animals.
person. Yeah.
just in general, just a big trigger warning for all of these shows.
Yeah.
Especially like it's Sexual Assault Awareness Month, so we know that people are consuming more media about these things, and folks are stuck at home right now, so they're consuming
Yeah.
more media than ever.
Yeah.
We're in a traumatic situation right now with this pandemic, so people who have already experienced trauma, which is most people, are having all of those things compounded.
Mhm.
Yeah.
But yeah, definitely, like I feel as though with Netflix, you know, it's weird because like, you know, whenever I think of trash TV, I always think of cable TV. I always think of like, you know, things that I would watch, like, you know, and
MTV,
again, like,
VH1.
yeah, VH1, like Real Housewives, like The Bachelor, like that's what I think when I think of trash TV.
Yeah.
And I feel as though Netflix is like slowly like kind of like dipping their toes. And,
Oh,
like,
absolutely.
you know,
Especially with Love is Blind like coming out, and what is The Circle?
Yeah.
That stuff looks just so dystopian. I can't. I don't know what's about it, but I like the vibe I get is very dystopian, so I can't watch those. But like, absolutely, Tiger King is total trash, and there's not actually a clear storyline. It's like the directors were like, "This is just bananas shit. Look at this." Oh.
Yeah, and I think like, you know, the worst part is with, okay, so like, you know, I brought this up that I was really frustrated with because I don't think too many people saw it. And again, this is another documentary series. When They See Us is a very triggering series.
Yeah,
It is
I have
very-
not watched that.
Yes. It is very triggering and super informative of the story of the Central Park Five, of the injustice of, you know, just people of color, and what's going on now when it comes to the show airing, like the aftermath of it, and people not watching Law and Order because of that series. You know, and so definitely, yeah, the creator of Law and Order, just to backtrack, was the lawyer. Yes.
Oh, okay. I forgot. The connection.
Oh,
Yeah, so
I
she
didn't
was
know
the
that she-
creator of Law and Order. She made the books which got, you know, adapted into the series. And
Oh,
so,
I did not know that.
yeah, and so people are like, we can't watch it anymore. Like, we can't watch Law and Order because of that.
Dang, I
And
love
rightfully
SVU.
so, because I don't want her to get any money and like, you know, tag
Right.
into it. I want her name smeared negatively because it's honestly like just her wrongdoing. And I think that series is so important for me to watch so that they can like understand like that piece of history and stuff like that.
Mhm.
Tiger King doesn't do that. I feel like Tiger King shows like the dark end of tiger breeding. I know that, you know, I think towards December of last year, there was an investigation on Doc Antle and his sanctuary near Myrtle Beach.
Yeah.
I haven't heard any like negative stuff like him going to jail or anything like that. And so like it just kind of shows like, I don't know, the whole show just basically shows like, oh, this is the dark world of white people just owning tigers and doing what they want and like, you know, being whatever. And it's frustrating because, you know, it doesn't really add into a informative thing. Which is where I stand with like you, where like, you know, even though we're getting into the mindset of like a predator, like I feel as though that since it is an attractive
It's being romanticized.
It's being romanticized. So like, you know, viewers aren't going to watch it and be like, oh, that'll never happen to me, you know, but like
They literally showed in the first episode, he can literally click a picture on Instagram, put it on Google, and find where you live. Like, that is scary. That is terrifying.
Ways for folks to.
Yeah, I literally went through my Instagram and made sure that my address wasn't on anything, like, or that I wasn't in front of my house.
Yeah, and like it's.
Can I just plug? We actually have a cybersecurity expert. So if you're ever looking for tips, one of our advocates partner, like that's his full-time job. So we're always happy to walk folks through how to remove identifying information from your social media. And I definitely, I don't know. I do want to say that I do think that there is value in you. I just am so frustrated by the media response and by like the audience response, because I think it does show the lengths and even the responses. It shows the lengths we go to forgive whiteness. And then in season 2, it shows the ways that white women collude with that whiteness, which I think is very fascinating. So I will say that I really do. I enjoy that, and I'm very frustrated that it is, you know, we've been so conditioned by our society that already romanticizes stalking, that already romanticizes coercion. I mean, just look at The Notebook. I've never understood why that was a romantic tale. He threatens to kill himself, so she goes on a date with him.
Yeah.
What? Yeah, thank you. Yikes. So I think we're all living in this society where we've been conditioned to think all of these things are romantic, to think that men, and in particular white men, have access to the bodies of women at all times for whatever they want. So
I mean, don't get me wrong, like I definitely I like the whole season that I watched, and I was like, dang, like this is just really frustrating. Like, yeah, I was in that kind of weird space where I was like, it's gonna take a lot for me to like get to season 2 because I don't like Cho.
Yeah.
And like, I know like the whole season surrounds around him and like the processing of that. But then I'm like, yo, if John Stamos didn't just like, you know.
That's so funny.
So we do have to wrap up. I feel like we have so much more that we could dive into about all of these shows. And I encourage you all that are listening to have those discussions, because I feel like we're going to have a Zoom quarantine little meetup or something to really dive into all of this, because there's a lot to unpack with all of these. But alas, we do have to wrap it up just for time's sake. We have other meetings and such, because yes, we are still working right now under a pandemic, not working from home, under a pandemic. Before we forget, if you just want to mention the article a little bit, it'll be in our YouTube link and in our little description, and we'll do it on our SoundCloud too.
Yeah, absolutely. So this was a really great article that my coworker Catherine found on LinkedIn, and it was talking about how like we're not working from home. We are literally working during a pandemic, and that is completely different. We are living in a time of active trauma, and for a lot of us, we're also not living in safe situations. So that really compounds a lot of things. So I found this to be a really helpful, validating article. So I'm really excited to share it with folks. And I was also hoping I could plug something.
Yeah.
Awesome. So it is Sexual Assault Awareness Month. So we're doing lots and lots of social media. Please follow our Instagram and our Facebook. I will send those links so that they can be included in the description. We're asking for different types of participation, both in English and Spanish. So please be aware, as well as if you are interested in doing a short, less than 1 minute long video about what Sexual Assault Awareness Month means to you, either as a community member, advocate, student, really any lens, survivor, ally, please do so and send it to info@thepca.org. We really want to show folks how we're still showing up to raise awareness for survivors and to work on prevention work. Even though the pandemic is going on. And stay tuned, we're working on something about the coercive sex cults in Tiger King, because oh boy, the sexual violence in Tiger King just went wholly unaddressed.
Yes.
100%. It's I was gonna.
Yeah, like I said, we could talk about.
I was gonna go off, but then I was like, you know what, Rain? Another day.
So, yeah, go ahead, Ray. Take it
Yeah.
away.
Thank you so much, Em, for joining us. Thank you so much for being active in our discussion. We hope you're well. We hope all our viewers are well and they're doing safe. And yes, that will conclude another episode of our What Are You? Next week, we will be talking about the legalization of marijuana. So yes, get ready to. There was going to be a pun there, but I didn't want to put it in. So yes, that concludes another episode of
What are
What are you?
Woo!
Yeah.